In today's video, let's talk about 5 gamer misconceptions about guns. First one is that snipers don't suck at shooting at close range. So for practical purposes, you would never actually consider a sniper rifle for close quarters combat because it is very cumbersome, weighs more than a typical carbine rifle, and it is very long, which a lot of people who play video games don't really consider that. But when you're trying to navigate narrow corridors and hallways, you don't need a weapon that is that long. It's gonna get in your way. However, let's be real, if you did have a weapon like that in close corridors and you did shoot someone that's 5 feet in front of you, it should hit them. However, not according to video games, especially when hip firing. If you ever played any shooting game ever, you'll notice that whenever you try to hip fire your sniper rifle, it veers off into the realm of Oblivion and kills Mehrunes Dagon instead of the guy in front of you. While it is understandable that snipers are hard to manage due to recoil, it doesn't mean that the bullet will magically veer off somewhere else entirely. This is usually because of bloom, which is an in-game balancing mechanic that adds a level of randomness to where the bullet will end up in the crosshair. Most games feature ridiculous levels of bloom for sniper rifles, and this is usually done to make sure that players don't go around no-scoping the crap out of everyone in close quarters combat, because it kind of forces them to prefer to use the scope to get rid of the bloom. Of course, let's be real, a lot of people still go around no-scoping people regardless. The only reason a gun would ever veer its bullets randomly is if it were a smoothbore, but usually most sniper rifles do not use a smoothbore barrel, and even then, a smoothbore barrel isn't entirely inaccurate. It usually takes a good few hundred feet before your shots become too random. As long as you can manage the recoil, you can most certainly hip fire a sniper rifle at someone who is 5 feet in front of you. The second misconception is about shotguns, and is not about the whole them shooting only 15 feet in front of you. Everyone kind of already knows that's a misconception at this point. I don't want to beat that dead horse anymore. However, what I do want to talk about is how shotguns spread like crazy in video games. And this misconception even extends to what people think of shotguns in real life. One of my friends back in my high school days had a father with a 12 gauge Maverick 88 for home defense, which is also a shotgun I own myself. Admittedly, it is a very cheap and solid gun. The problem was, the kid's father never once shot it. He was one of those people who thought that as long as you have a gun, you're safe. He literally thought that shotguns with short barrels, in this case 18.5 inch, so it's not super short, he thought it was forgiving enough if you missed your target by a couple of feet, you would still hit them, which was his logic for not having to practice it. And all I can say is no, you most certainly won't. The average house probably has rooms that are 15 feet long, in which case if you miss by 2 or more feet off your target, you are not going to hit them, and in the off chance that some pellets do graze your enemy, it won't be enough to stop them. If you can't aim, a shotgun won't magically compensate for that lack of skill. In fact, it could worsen it, since most 12 gauge shotguns are more gun than most people can handle, and all that recoil can knock people. Don't sit around and expect the shotgun to do the work for you. Get familiar with it, learn to aim with it, learn to deal with its recoil, and in due time, you'll find the myth of not having to aim a shotgun will quickly wear off when you realize how much practice you still need to put into aiming a shotgun. The third misconception is that suppressors make guns weaker and less effective at range. In games like Battlefield, suppressors tend to cause stupid levels of bullet drop to the point long-distance snipers are about half as effective as they usually are. This is a horrible misconception, or rather it's an outdated one, because in a point of time, older suppressors actually do decrease range and cause bullets to have lower muzzle velocity. Having said that, modern suppressors actually make your gun shoot ever so slightly more powerful and ever more slightly further, and they actually create a small increase in muzzle velocity. This gain is very negligible, being as low as 1 to 3% at times, but the point I'm trying to make is the fact that modern suppressors have a benefit means that the whole misconception of them doing less damage and less range is all the more invalid. Again, this is likely something video games do as a balancing mechanic, as it would be very overpowered to have quieter and more powerful weapons. The fourth misconception is just the whole use of magazines in general when it comes to video games. So aside from most video games completely ignoring the whole one round in the chamber thing, they also magically transfer bullets between reloads. What I mean by that is, let's say you have 60 rounds spread across 2 magazines. If you only shoot 10 rounds in your first magazine before discarding it, and then you reload, according to the game, you still have 50 rounds left because you've only consumed 10. In actuality, you only have 30 rounds left because you just threw away a magazine with 20 bullets left. Those 20 bullets don't magically just load themselves back into your gun. Where would they go? They're still in the magazine. It's the whole point of the magazine. You don't have 2 magazines spread across 30 rounds. Your character actually has 60 magazines. You could literally shoot 1 round, throw it away, and get another magazine out of nowhere. Then you have 59 rounds left. Shoot that and keep repeating it all the way till you're down to 0 rounds. And you will literally visually see your character throw away 60 magazines. But I'm sure a lot of people already know that's just extremely fake. And at the end of the day, it's all fun and games, and it's a better game mechanic for it to be like that because it's more convenient. However, I will say that there are some guns where it is more viable. So for example, tube-fed magazines like shotguns or lever action rifles with loading gates, in which case topping off your magazine is actually very viable and it's a good practice. The final misconception video games spread about guns is that you can shoot them endlessly without having to worry about overheating, jamming, and cleaning. And that's understandable again from a game mechanic standpoint, but again that also has some real life consequences and misconceptions. When I first take a lot of my friends shooting, the first thing that surprises them is always how hot guns tend to get. Another thing that they aren't used to dealing with is that they always get guns that jam. And I don't mean that as in I suck at cleaning my guns. I mean that as in they don't work the action properly. And I guess the reason for that is because video games don't illustrate it in the way that it can be translated to reality. So they take for granted how in video games their characters always cycle the guns properly, never have to deal with jamming, never have to deal with cleaning the gun or taking care of it, and never have to deal with overheating. So they just kind of almost forget that guns are, you know, guns and do gun things, such as all the aforementioned. On a finishing note, know that I'm not hating on any of the video games mentioned. I want to keep an open mind, especially since a lot of young enthusiasts get interested in guns because of video games, which is why I made a video like this, to kind of let them know what they're actually getting into and what they're seeing in the game will not at all translate to what they're about to deal with in reality, and I respect that. So if you're new here and love cars and various misconception videos, then make sure to check out my cars misconception videos and be on the lookout for my sword misconceptions video. Other than that, thanks for watching and see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.